Good morning, cuties. So it's early this morning, but I thought I'd do something a little different. I'm going to show you what I eat in a day like I've done before, but I'm actually going to show you how I make each thing. So I think it'll be fun, and I am still on low carb, and as I mentioned, my coffee, I just have one really good cup of coffee because I like to use creamer. And the creamer is not so low in carbs, but I do just have 2 tablespoons and then I'm done for the day. And I actually don't drink coffee every day. Some days I have my Celsius drink for energy. But just having a little cozy morning coffee, and stay tuned for what I'm going to make for breakfast. And I'm going to show you how I make it and what I'm having. Life is a wonder. Here are my ingredients for my breakfast. This morning I'm going to show you how I make my egg white omelet. This is just one flavor that I make. Of course, I make all kinds of different flavors. This is one of my favorites because it has a lot of extra flavors that aren't in my other ones. So it's kind of a weird maybe combination for some people, but it's delicious to me. So I start off with 1/4 cup of egg whites. Of course, you can use real eggs, and I do that. But for quick breakfast, egg whites cook so fast, and you'll see they're easy to flip, so I can make a pretty presentation of an egg white. So I like to use that. And it's low in carbs, of course, and if any. Let's see, does it have carbs? No, it doesn't. So it's pretty much 25 calories or so. I do use 1/4 cup, so it's a little bit more. And over here today, I'm going to use this little cheese stick, this reduced fat cheese stick. I like to add cheese to this one, and the cheddar especially. It's going to be kind of a Mexican type egg white, I guess you could say. Here is some adobo seasoning, and it goes really well with kind of my Mexican theme. So that'll be good. In this jar, I prep some little bits of red pepper. And I like to do that, prepare my vegetables and put them in containers so they're all ready. And of course, here's some picante sauce. I like 2 tablespoons of that and 2 tablespoons of light sour cream. Oh my gosh, you guys. I had an omelet somewhere out, and as a side, they gave the picante sauce or like a salsa with light sour cream and the eggs. It's just such a good combination. I know it sounds really weird, but it's delicious. And over here, I just prepped some zucchini. I usually cut them in smaller bits, but I wasn't sure if I'd be using them in anything else. So I'm just going to cut these a little before I put them in the pan, just so they're tiny and they cook really fast. And you'll see how I'm going to do that. So these are my ingredients, and stay tuned and I'll show you how I put it all together. Here are my zucchini. So you can see I just cut them into kind of little small bits, and I have my red pepper. And over here is just a nonstick pan. It's a small pan. This is probably just a typical small pan, but it is nonstick. And I'm gonna spray it with some cooking spray, and I'm gonna put the vegetables in, and I'm gonna let those saute for just a couple minutes. You can see these are just kind of slightly cooking. I keep it on pretty low. I don't want these to really burn. I just want them to soften a little bit. I added salt and pepper and a little of that adobe seasoning. Just a little bit, doesn't need a lot. Of course, the egg whites have really no flavor, so I don't want to overpower it with that kind of adobo flavor. But just a little hint of it would be good. And I just wanted to say about prepping the vegetables. The ones I put in that little jar that I showed you, that will last for so long. I guess because the jar is truly like airtight, it just lasts for a really long time. So I don't really measure the vegetables. I just kind of put in what fits in the pan. And also, I use a lot of other vegetables. These are typically the ones that I use, but I usually have red onion, which I don't have today. But certainly any kind of onion if you like that. Even you could add garlic, which I never think to do. But also spinach. I use baby spinach right out of the bag sometimes. Or I have different color peppers. Yeah, so really it's endless, whatever you like. So I'm going to let these saute a little bit longer. I'm going to stir them up a little. And then I'm going to pour in my egg white. So you can see my veggies pretty much softened. They don't have much color, maybe some little brown bits here and there. So I am going to just slowly pour in my egg whites. I'm going to make sure it covers the whole bottom of the pan. That's important, and you'll see when I turn this, you want it to cover all the vegetables. And I'm going to season the egg whites up with just a little more salt and pepper, just a little. And then I'm going to show you what it looks like after it's cooked a little bit more. Here are my egg whites. They're pretty much set, and you can see they sort of puff up a little bit. But it looks delicious, I think. So what I'm going to do next, I'm just going to put that little piece of cheese that I have, and you'll see it's in a stick. Let me show you. I can get it out. There we go. I plop it right on top. And you'll see when I fold it over, it's just going to melt right in there. And it's a big hunk of cheese, so it's going to give me a decent amount of cheese. So there it is. Maybe I'll move it just a little bit to the middle. There we go. So I'm going to let that melt a little bit and the egg whites set a little tiny bit longer. And then I'm going to plate it up, and I'm going to show you how I flip it first. So let me just let this kind of set up a little. Melt the cheese a little bit, and it'll melt more once I fold it over. So here's my omelet flipped over. I mean, look how good that looks. It's just amazing. I did turn off the heat from the pan, and I kind of just let it sit there for a minute, and again, the cheese will melt a little bit more. I'm going to flip it onto my plate, and I'm going to measure out my picante sauce and my sour cream, and I'll show you what it looks like all plated up. Here's my omelet all plated up. Sorry about the paper plate. I probably should have put it on a prettier one, but you can see what the omelet looks like. It's just perfect. And I decided just to have a tablespoon of the sour cream and the picante sauce. I think that's plenty. 2 tablespoons would have been too much for this size omelet. So I'm going to sit down and enjoy this, and stay tuned for my lunch. I am going to be making an Italian salad for lunch today, and I'm making 2 actually, because I'm going to eat one today for lunch, then I'm going to bring it to work tomorrow, another one to work tomorrow for lunch. So I do this pretty frequently. It's just easier to kind of prepare that lunch that you're taking to work ahead of time and have it all ready. And it's just easy. I'm cutting up the lettuce and cucumbers and things anyway. So I'm going to stick these 2 chicken breasts in the oven just for about 20 minutes or so on 350. And I just season them with salt and pepper, very basic, because of course I'm going to have the dressing and all the other flavors. Stick around and I'll show you how I put the salad together. Here are my 2 chicken breasts fresh out of the oven. Just took about 20 minutes at 350. So I'm going to let these cool a little bit so I can kind of chop it up or shred it up, whatever I decide. And in the meanwhile, I'm going to get my salad ingredients all ready. Here are my salad ingredients. So I'm just keeping it pretty simple. I'm going to chop up this lettuce, probably just one of the lettuce hearts, and I'll put that in the salad spinner and make it nice and dry. I'll wash it, of course, make it nice and dry. And it'll be just enough for the 2 salads, the one for today and the one I'm going to bring at work tomorrow, the one I'm going to bring to work tomorrow. And here's an English cucumber. These are my favorite. I do like the mini ones. Also, they didn't have them, so I got this one, which is fine. It's delicious. And I'll chop this up and I'll show you what it looks like. I like the skin, so I'm going to keep the skin on. And you'll see it's got very few seeds. That's another reason I like it. And the skin is delicious. And over here are some little tomatoes. They're delicious, these cherubs. So you'll see I'll probably just have those and stick those in the salad. And for my dressing today, often I make my own homemade. We're gonna keep this really simple and use this light Italian wishbone. One of my favorites as far as store-bought. I also enjoy the one that Olive Garden has. That's delicious also. And I like to have olives in my salad. The Kalamata goes really well in this Italian salad and also in a Greek salad. It's absolutely delicious. And lastly, well, second to last, is some Parmesan cheese. This is the big block of cheese, and I'm just gonna do some, I'm gonna take my peeler and just do kind of some long strips, and I'll measure it out. I think it looks pretty that way, and it's gonna taste good. And of course, my last ingredients is the chicken that's cooling in the back on the tray, so I can shred it up or cut it up, whatever I decide. So I am going to put this all together. I'll show you how I kind of chop up everything, and it's going to be delicious. Also, I wanted to mention in another video, kind of a ways back, I showed how I make 4 salads using one base, and one of them is my Italian salad. So I'm actually going to link that in the description below. It's a really great video. It gives you 4 salad ideas, and one of them, of course, is the Italian one, and it's just fun to have different ideas for salads. So I will link that below in the description. Again, I'm going to put this all together, and I'll show you what it looks like. Here's my salad all put together. So this is the one I'm going to eat today, and you can probably see all the veggies in there, the olives, and the chicken. I just cut those in cubes. Sometimes I make it look a little fancier, but again, today we're just going quick and easy. And to make these little curls of the Parmesan cheese, I just used a vegetable grater and just kind of did a few strips, and I weighed that. This is actually 10 grams of the Parmesan cheese, which is hardly any calories, honestly, and it just gives it a little bit of flavor. I already put my dressing on, and I just used 1 tablespoon of the wishbone dressing today. That's all this salad really needed. And here's the one I'm bringing to work tomorrow. Looks a little bit prettier. The lettuce is on the bottom. It keeps it separate. And then my dressing's in that little cup, as you can see. Same ingredients, everything's the same. I do have to put my chicken and cheese in a separate bag, which I don't like to waste baggies, but it wasn't going to fit in here. And I didn't want the chicken to get super soggy in with the lettuce, so I just put it separate. So there you have it, my lunch for 2 days. So stick around for what I'm having for dinner. I may have an afternoon snack, we'll see, but I'll show you that if I do. So this is my lunch for today and lunch for tomorrow. I am going to have a snack today. So what I am having is a cup of this. Let's see if it focuses. There we go. The Tazo glazed lemon loaf tea. I think I mentioned this in another video. It is so delicious. And I do add a little trivia to it. Well, 1 packet. I just find that it needs that little bit of extra sweetness. I don't usually add sugar to my tea, but I just feel like this one calls for it. I am boiling the water. That's what you hear in the background. And with it, I'm gonna slice up this apple And I'm going, let me turn off my tea. Sorry about that, my kettle. I'm gonna have some of this peanut butter and I'm gonna weigh it in grams. I find certain things it's just easier instead of the 2 tablespoons, and I find that I can get a little bit not precise when measuring by the tablespoon. So I am gonna do that. I'm gonna weigh it on my scale in this little bowl, and I think it's also less wasteful. I'm going to put it right into the bowl that I'm going to serve it in, and I'm going to put it on this pretty pumpkin plate, and I'll show you what it looks like. I'm just going to pour my tea, my water in the cup, and we'll be all set with this snack. It's one of my favorites, especially when I'm counting calories. I'm a little low in the calorie department, and it's already the afternoon. It's after 3. So I like peanut butter because it's a little bit higher in calories, and it's not going to be a giant serving of something. So let me plate this all up and I'll show you what it looks like. Here's my low carb afternoon snack. Again, I just have that kind of natural peanut butter from Trader Joe's, a sliced green apple, which is very tart. I have that lemon loaf Tazo tea with just 1 Truvia packet in it. I wanted to mention about the peanut butter. This one for 32 grams, which is 2 tablespoons, it's 180 calories, which isn't so bad. It is literally just salt and peanuts. There's nothing else in it. There's no added sugar. So I think this is a good low carb kind of peanut butter. So I'm going to sit down and enjoy this, and stay tuned. Next, I am going to show you how to make dinner and what we're having. So I hope you stick around. I'm just getting ready to make dinner, and tonight I'm making a dish that I've made before. It's from skinnytaste.com, and it's pork chops with mushrooms and shallots. It's really delicious, and actually, I didn't pull out the mustard, but it has kind of like a mustardy sort of sauce to it, and it's really good. It's really, really good. So, funny enough, it starts with clarified butter or ghee, and this gives it so much flavor because, of course, when you're eating healthier, you don't typically add butter, but it's just a little bit, and it gives it so much flavor when it's cooking. Oh my goodness, the mushrooms with the clarified butter, oh, so delicious. So of course here I have my pork chops, they're boneless. I have the ghee, I have a package of mushrooms that I'm gonna slice up. And in this little container is a small onion. I don't have the shallots, which I always have, but we're just gonna go with this. I'll slice them really thin, the onion. And then I believe it calls for parsley and some chicken broth, bone broth, whatever you have. And with it, I'm going to serve some whole wheat couscous. I don't cook couscous very often, but it's really because I forget. But it's a nice little alternative to rice. This one happens to be from Trader Joe's, and it's whole wheat couscous. It could not be easier. I don't know why I don't make it more often. It's a little on the dry side, but I'm actually going to cook it in some of the broth and add a little bit of parsley to it, and it's going to be good. Oh, and lemon juice. I'm going to add a little lemon to it, and it will be really good. And strangely enough, we are actually having some corn with this dish. My husband loves corn. I really never make corn. I really only eat it when it's corn on the cob in the summer. But I thought I'd just kind of give him his corn tonight. It's so rare that I make corn with a dinner. But I thought, what the heck? I don't really have a vegetable to go with this except the mushrooms. So it's going to be weird, but it's going to be tasty. I'm just going to have about a half a cup of the corn. It's just frozen corn. So that's what I'm making for dinner. So stick around. I'm going to show you how to make this pork dish. It's going to be really good. And I'll link her recipe, if I can, below If I can't, it's skinnytaste.com. You can go look for yourself. And it's called pork chops with mushrooms and shallots. So pretty easy to find if I can't link it. But I appreciate her video. I appreciate her her site. It gives me a lot of recipes. Sometimes I don't always follow them exactly, but it definitely gives me some ideas. So go check that out. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so the first step is to melt the ghee. So this is a teaspoon of ghee, which is quite a bit of butter. But again, the flavor is incredible. If you've never cooked with ghee, I hope you give it a try. I've seen it in the regular store. I did buy this one in Trader Joe's when they had it. I don't know if they still have it, but you can also make it yourself, but basically it's so much easier to buy. But this is melting, and now I'm gonna add the pork chops, and it just says to coat them with some salt and pepper. So I'm gonna get them in the pan, and they're gonna cook for about 8 minutes, 7 or 8 minutes. She used bone in, so hers probably took a little bit longer. Mine don't have the bone, so I'm gonna really just check it as they're cooking. I don't wanna overcook it because they'll be put back in when we do the sauce. And also, once these cook up, and they're fully cooked, I'm gonna put them in this dish and put this dish in my warmer. I have a warmer in my oven on the bottom rack, but also right in your oven at 200 degrees, you can do it. Just make sure you're putting it in an oven safe dish. So yeah, we'll keep those warm, and then we'll start on the sauce. The couscous is the last thing I'm actually gonna do because it takes literally like 2 minutes. So, well, maybe a little longer, but it goes really quick. You're not even cooking it actually, but I'll show you how I do that. So stick around for the next step. Here are the pork chops. Mine cooked up so fast, so just watch your pork chops depending on which kind you use. Mine did not take 7 minutes. It was more like 3.5, 4 minutes. They are pretty thin. So I'm going to remove these from the pan. I'm actually going to turn the heat on low just until I kind of see the next step, and I'll show you what that is. I'm going to put these in that the bowl and keep them warm in my warmer, and we'll go to the next step. So I just added the onions. I cut them pretty thin. Like I said, I didn't have a shallot, which is what she called for. I don't mind a few extra onions. And I don't mind if they're in bigger chunks, that's fine. We love the flavor of onion. So I just added some salt and pepper, and I'm gonna cook these up for a little bit. And I'm gonna add the mushrooms next and just start those a little bit. She actually said to start the mushrooms in the sauce or put them in the sauce. But I'm gonna give them a little head start, and I wanna season them up. So that's gonna be my next step, is to add the mushrooms. Okay, I added the mushrooms and just a little more salt and pepper. And I just want to say, I'm adding like the tiniest bit of salt and pepper. It really is just to build layers of flavor. You don't want to over salt it, but you also don't want to just add a ton of salt at the end. It just doesn't taste as good. So I'm going to stir this up and let these soften, and then we're going to build our sauce. So you can see how the mushrooms and onions cook down a little bit. Wanted to show you that before I start the sauce. So the next step, like I said, is to do the sauce, and I'm going to show you what that's about. Okay, what I did was I added the chicken stock. I only added about half a cup. I want to see if that's going to be enough. And what I'm doing now is just kind of scraping the little bits off the bottom of the pan, and that's called deglazing. So you have all that flavor from the pork chops and the onions, so you want that to go into your sauce. So there's sodium in this broth, so I am not going to add any more salt at this point. I am going to let this reduce a little bit, see if it needs more liquid, and then we add our Dijon mustard, 1 tablespoon. Okay, so I added the Dijon mustard. At this point, I don't think I need any more liquid, so I'm just going to stir in this mustard, and we'll see how it's looking, and I'm just gonna keep cooking it. So stay tuned. I'll show you what it looks like before I plate it up, and we're gonna work on the couscous next. In this pot, I have half a cup of that chicken bone broth. I'm gonna bring this to a boil. And then over here, I have my half a cup of whole wheat couscous. And after this comes to a boil, you pour it in, you mix it up. If you want to season it at this point, you can. And you turn the heat off, put a cover on it for about 5 minutes. Mine doesn't usually even take that long. So it's super simple. You can't overcook it really. So I'll probably season it up with the lemon after and a little bit of parsley and maybe some chives, and just kind of stir it around, and I'll show you what that looks like. And a half cup of dry couscous makes 1 cup. So it's going to be exactly enough for my husband and I for tonight. Just look at how delicious this is. I just added the parsley and I put back the pork chops. I like to kind of do that just for a few minutes to kind of meld the flavors together. And over here is the couscous. It's all done. You can see the broth evaporated. I added a lot of chives and just a little bit of parsley. I added half a lemon, the juice from half a lemon. I'm gonna mix that up. I added a little bit of pepper too. And I'm gonna fluff it up like you do rice. And like I said, it's a half cup serving, so I made just enough for 2 half cups. And I'm gonna plate it up and show you the finished product. And here's the finished dish. So we have our pork chop with the mushrooms and onions and the gravy. This is half a cup of corn, just frozen corn I heated up. And this is the couscous mixture with chives, parsley, and lemon. I did add a little tiny bit of salt and pepper because the couscous isn't flavored. So there it is. I hope you check out her recipe. Again, it's skinnytaste.com. I'll try to link the recipe, but if I can't, just check out our website. And I'll see you back here for my dessert. So it's dessert time, and I'm just gonna have this kind of concoction that I made up. And I did show this 2 videos ago, but I'll break it down for you again. So I have some Fudgy yogurt, the 0% fat. I have some walnuts. And over here is the Vermont sugar-free syrup. I find that this doesn't bother my stomach and it doesn't have a weird aftertaste. I do use 1/4 cup, which is quite a bit, but the yogurt definitely needs it. You can certainly use less. When I put it in my oatmeal sometimes, and when I put it in there, I don't need as much. But this is what I've got for dessert. I'm going to put it all together. And I just want to tell you, I'm going to be having 1/4 cup of walnuts also. I am going to toast those in the microwave. And what I do is I put them on a plate, stick them in the microwave, and I do 1 minute. Then I kind of stir them up and do it for another minute. And in my microwave, 2 minutes is perfect. So I'm gonna put this all together and I'll show you what it looks like. I mixed up the yogurt. So again, it's the Fudgy yogurt with some of that sugar-free maple syrup. And over here are my toasted nuts. So it's 1/4 cup of walnuts. I put it in the microwave for 1 minute, tossed it around, put it in for another minute. They're still kind of steamy or warm. So I'm gonna wait for them to cool off and then I'll dump it in here. And then I'm gonna sit down and enjoy this. So this ends the video. I hope you really enjoyed this. It's something a little bit different for me. I know it's a longer video. I just thought it would be fun to combine what I eat and show you a little cook with me, how I make each meal. So if you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up, and I'd love to hear what you liked about it. If you tried any of the recipes or meal ideas, I'd love to hear about it. And also subscribe to my channel if you'd like more of this content. If you'd like to see how I'm doing with the low-carb diet, my results, I would love to have you. So thank you so much. Have a great night.